a harder topic, which ties into courage. Death. In 4.5 years' time, we lose two seminal figures. The first figure, Jack Kennedy. When he was killed, what did Bobby say that he thought that when Hoover called him, that he had enjoyment telling Bobby the news? Why?
He did. He was cold. He just called up and said, your brother's been shot. That's all he said. And then he called up a couple minutes later and said he's dead. And he was happy because then he didn't have to work for Bobby anymore. He could work for Johnson. Well, just imagine, it's like being married to somebody or being devoted to somebody like Bobby was. From 1952 to 63, he had lived for Jack, basically. And everything in his life was Jack. He was his enforcer. He did the dirty work for him. He did the tough stuff with other politicians that Jack didn't want to do, would say, you do it, Jack, Bobby, and keep me out of it. And he'd say, oh, thanks, Jack. And he had to do the tough stuff of getting the governors. It's great stuff in the politics, what Bobby had to do. And Bobby, as I said, he was broken. He was talking to God. Why can you do this? Why? And then, of course, he began to thinking about how it happened. I think his focus was on guns. Like I think we should have today. Like I did in the Times last week. I wrote that article. Why don't we focus on why somebody did it? Why don't we focus on how? Because we can't control the why. There's always going to be a motive to shoot somebody. There'll be politics or craziness or lunacy. But he wanted to know how can people get mail order rifles. And he was talking, Bobby was in Roseburg, Oregon, 10 days before he was shot himself, making the case with a bunch of, what do you call them? Timbermen, these big guys with all their, with all their rifles and guns, and he knew he shouldn't do it politically. He's telling, we got to get rid of this. We're letting the young people and people with nuts problems having guns. Why are we doing it? He talked about a guy who had ordered a rifle who was on death row and they delivered it. And it sounded insane. I got something for the guy here on the row or something. It's hard. I don't even know if it happened, but it sounds apocryphal. But it was so easy to get it. His brother was killed with a mail order gun. And he was trying to at least stop the traffic buying mail-in guns. First instinct was that it was what we all thought. Some Southerner ticked off at Jack's fight for civil rights. And he thought it was the bitterness that was in the country. He said they got from his press guy, said so much bitterness. And then he thought it might be the CIA, and he went to McConey, made him swear as a fellow Catholic on his soul that you guys had nothing to do with it. He was convinced that McConey wouldn't lie to him on that basis. And then he got the evidence, which is, I will say this to everybody here, which is very good evidence, that it was Lee Harvey Oswald operating alone. Very good evidence. The ballistics, the fingerprints, everything. You can be overstung all you want, but the evidence is there. And the best evidence to me was from Jerry Bruno, who was Jack Kennedy's advance man, who wrote a couple years after the assassination that there's no way there could have been a conspiracy because we didn't have the motorcade route till the day before. And that would require that they brought him that the White House staff said, let's bring the president to Harvey so he can kill him. Lee Harvey Oswald, which is insane thinking. And I think it was a crime of opportunity.
So you think that Bobby believed it was solely Oswald?
No, I think Bobby accepted the Warren Commission. His brother Ted, right before he died, said, I believe the Warren Commission thoroughly, and Bobby did too. He didn't have to do that, he did believe that. So he did intellectually accept the evidence. But that said, Bobby had spent most of his adult life, starting in '57, chasing mobsters. As chief counsel of the Rackets Committee, going after really scary, and they're in the book, scary guys. Kierdorf, Frank Kierdorf, the Human Torch, and Giancana. And he was taunting him when he was chairman of that what do you call it, chief counsel. He was taunting the guy. Giancana said, giggling. He said, I thought other little girls would giggle. And he's taunting this killer. The guy's a hitman. He kills people, and he was the guy who hung people on meat hooks. That was what he did, like on the waterfront. I mean, he hung them up on meat hooks. That's like, Lee J. Cobb's guy, And he was fearless about it. And then when he was AG, the first thing he did after the Appalachian had that big meeting, like in The Godfather, where they get all the gangsters meeting, and Sonny Corleone comes and breaks the camera and all that. That actually happened. All of a sudden, in Appalachian Dirt, there's all these mobsters meeting with the big limos and all them showing up. And he hired a guy I got to know, Mort Kaplan, who's the professor of tax law at UVA. And he's still a lawyer in Washington. He's 102. He's at Thomas Circle practicing law right now. And Bobby went there because he had studied him at UVA Law School. And he said, here's what, we want to catch these bad guys the way we caught Capone. And Angelo Bell, one of his guys, had actually done it. We're going to get him through his taxes. We're going to catch him on tax evasion. And Kaplan said, let's do it. So Kaplan was all for it. He's in the book. And they were going after these guys like Giancana. Now here's the wrinkles. He's still going after Giancana. But meanwhile, let's look at all the complications. His brother's sleeping with Giancana's girlfriend. That's a complication. The beautiful Judy Campbell. Excellent. His father had gone to Giancana to get help in West Virginia, which I think is very Machiavellian. He didn't need the money, but he wanted to bring the mob in on their side so they'd be supporting. There were some mob districts in Chicago, for example, that were fixable. And then it turns out that the CIA was using Giancana to get Castro. All these sociometric overlays here going on, while he's going after Giancana with all these guys. Giancana might have been mad at him. You think? So, I mean, Bobby's got all this swirling in his head. I don't know. I can only say what he told people. And he told Ted Sorensen,
right,
who I really respect, as Ted put it in his book right before he died, he said he could never quash the idea that some of his brother's enemies had come for him. It wasn't just shooting the president, it was shooting the guy. Bobby used to say, I thought it would be me, because he should have been the target.
But when you sit down with Ethel, what does she tell you?
But just because he thought it doesn't mean that was reality.
No, I got it.
We don't know what was. I think Oswald did it.
But did Ethel tell you, when you sat down with her in depth, did she tell you Bobby's frame of mind of who he thought up until he died, killed Jack?
No, I didn't ask.
Okay.
But I know from what he'd said to so many people that he told his brother it was Oswald. But I think this is very human. You can believe all the information, you can believe the logic, and still in your head say, maybe I had something to do with it. That's just free-floating guilt. I can understand it.